Hey guys, welcome back to Marked. With me today, I have Mark Koch. I think that's how you pronounce it, right? Or no?
Cook, cook,
Cook.
close. Right.
Okay, I thought it was like, Conch or something like that, or,
No, dude, you're good.
gotcha.
You know, the history, it's funny because I grew up always obviously known it as pronounced Cook, and then I was in Germany years ago, and the last name Koch is very popular over there, and it means to cook food. And so I'm sure at some point when my family came to America from Germany,
Wow.
it was it was Cook. So it doesn't look like it, but that's it.
That's awesome, dude. I mean, I would definitely not figure that out. Like, I was just like, okay, maybe it's some kind of like surfer slang type of thing, or because I know you like, so as we're gonna get into it, but so Mark does a skate surf Christian ministry, like active sports ministry with a Christian kind of like influence on it. And basically, yeah, I kind of wanted to just highlight you, share your story because I think it's like really awesome what you guys do. I've been going to Ride House of Ride Nature for some time now. And I mean, I love your guys' coffee. I mean, it's dialed all the time and everything like that. But other than that, it's just like the mission, the whole atmosphere there is just such a like I don't know. It's evident that Jesus is working there. And yeah, I kind of just wanted to hear your story, how you got into becoming the executive director of Ride Nature, like kind of introduce yourself, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, man. Thank you, too, and thank you for supporting the ministry, coming into the coffee shop, hanging out. And I'm glad to hear. You know, it's kind of a lot of people don't know this, but I don't even drink coffee. I don't like it. I've
Really?
tried, man. My wife loves coffee, drinks it every single morning, and I've tried to like it, and just I can't do it, man. And so people say, we hear or they tell us we have good coffee, and I'm always like, I hope so. I couldn't tell you, man. I would drink our coffee downstairs and it would taste just like McDonald's coffee. Um, couldn't tell a difference. So, well, man, I'm super grateful. Thank you for the opportunity to get to share my story.
Mark, you still there, bro?
The Lord has been 15th year of Ride Nature since we founded it, and so it's been a long journey with a lot of stories along the way. But yeah, just the really the vision of the ministry is to leverage action sports, surfing, skateboarding, wakeboarding as tools for the gospel, and to use those to build relationships with people, to connect with people, to just find a common denominator that will allow us gospel centered conversations and opportunities. And then the hope and prayer that people would respond to the gospel and we can lead them into discipleship opportunities and relationships, and that we can partner alongside the local church, both here in Southwest Florida and around the world, to accomplish that. And we've seen the Lord open up doors in so many different places. We already in 2024, we've had teams in, I think, 12 different nations.
Wow. What nations, if you
Myself,
don't mind
yeah,
sharing?
yeah, just so in Turkey, which was formerly Turkey, but now has the president has changed the name to Turkey, uh, Japan, the Philippines, China,
One.
Brazil, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Colombia. We had a team that just got back on Saturday from Colombia, a team that leaves in a couple weeks for Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador. I don't know if that's probably. Oh, Jamaica. We had a team in Jamaica
Oh,
already in 2024. So I'm probably missing even honestly even a couple more, but
I'm kind of
yeah.
intrigued with the Japan mission area because like I have a friend who he is an a vet from that area. He was stationed there and he said that like just Christianity is very limited in that region and it's really hard to work with the culture there and stuff like that.
And to be honest, man, I've had the privilege of sharing a lot about Japan, and I've been there. I think this was my third trip there. But there's a famous saying in Japan that says that the nail that sticks out will be hammered down.
Yes.
And you see that within the culture, like you don't go against the grain. In fact, I was in Tokyo and we were at the big Shibuya, I think is what it's called, Shibuya, the big
Yeah, yeah,
crosswalk
the big crossing.
world. And dude, nobody jaywalks, and I'm like, dude, forget this. It's like there was no traffic coming, and I just started walking across the street, and
That's
everyone's
awesome.
like, you like because you don't break the rules, you go, with the grain, and you don't go upstream, and so for years, action sports, I mean, naturally, even in America, skaters and surfers are generally they are the misfits. They're the ones that do push back against the status quo, and so the same in Japan. You see that you see the action sport community. Um, that it's being really frowned upon, if anything. And so it wasn't until the introduction of surfing and skating into the Olympics that we have seen a huge shift in that in the culture of Japan, to where those sports being kind of more validated and becoming more official are now starting to really be celebrated in that country. And so you see more skate parks being built, uh, more validity towards surfing and skateboarding just as a whole in the sports. But Japan, I mean, 500 ski resorts in Japan, and just kind of like what you had mentioned, less than 1% Christian in the whole country. Buddhism just reigning supreme as the nation's religion, and yeah, not a lot of people who want to go against that. And so Christianity has really struggled to take root in that country. But we're seeing the action sports community kind of pushing back against the status quo and kind of challenging some of those thoughts of those religions. And
That's awesome,
skaters and
bro.
surfers being open to Christianity and learning more. And so there's so much work to be done. Like truly, as Jesus said in Luke 10:2, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few.
Yeah.
And millions and millions of action sports people just in Japan, and probably no more than a dozen action sports ministry leaders in the entire country. And man, there's so much work to be done in that country.
So I was kind of interested in asking you, like, from, you guys have all these bases and everything, and I'm sure there's like awesome stories in each area that happen, but what would you say for you has been the most impactful success story you've witnessed through Ride Nature? How has the organization like made a difference maybe in that community or area that you're serving?
Yeah, it's a good one, man. I mean, it's kind of hard to nail down to one singular favorite story, but
Maybe even
I would say
recent.
that's like, yeah, I mean, the very first place we ever traveled to was to San Juan del Sur, Nicaragua, in 2010, early 2010. We were there, and that's currently the home for Right Nature Latin America. It's the permanent headquarters. And it's interesting. I think for me, I see the fruit from nearly 15 years, of sowing seeds, and so much of what we do, I think, is credited to the consistency of just sowing and tilling the soil over and over and over, planting more seeds, watering seeds, and so now, like 2020, we officially launched. And I say officially launched, but we sent, in the midst of COVID, we sent staff to Nicaragua to begin the early stages of setting up a permanent headquarters there. And it was in November of 2020, officially, the headquarters kind of opened, officially launched spring of 2021. So it's just been about 3 years. But man, they're thriving. The ministry down there, from local outreach to a discipleship program to,
Yeah.
we have a staff and team from leaders that are there in Nicaragua full time, from Colombia, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Peru, obviously some couple staff from Nicaragua also. And man, we're just seeing a ton of fruit there. We've seen the church that's been planted there as a result of the ministry that we're doing, and kind of just to give some context for people who are like, oh, I don't know what action sports ministry looks like. I mean, so forever as a ministry, up until the last couple of years, we've operated much like a parachurch ministry, and some people don't know what that means, or they've never heard that phrase. But essentially, our goal is to come alongside the existing church, to partner with them to assist in outreach, evangelism, but then to tie people back into the local church and point them back into the church. And there's so many.
Do you know who I first heard about like you guys through?
Who?
Chris Vaselli at the 180 House. Well, he stepped down
Oh
from that,
yeah.
but like we got connected. We did like prayer and worship meetings in
Oh
one
man,
place, and basically he was just like, yeah, dude, you got to check out this place in Fort Myers. And I'm like, okay,
that's
let's.
that.
And so like one thing to another, and I didn't know who you were or anything like that, but I heard of you,
Yeah.
and I'm like, just kind of kept on visiting, and then I was like, dude, this is such a awesome like thing that like you
That's
guys are just doing. But
yeah, and and even just kind of some context into the history of the ministry. We right out of the gate had a heart for the 1040 window, for people in closed countries, for people who have never heard the gospel before. And so we start pursuing all these missional opportunities in these other places. And then it was about a year into the ministry, and the Lord just really spoke to us and convicted us as an organization, as me as a leader, of the need to lead by example with local outreach in our own community, and not just being focused on ministry outside of North America or Southwest Florida. And so man, uh, we came back from a trip, and I said, man, we gotta start doing something at our local skate park. And that was in 2010, and we'll be at that skate park tomorrow night. It's been going for 14 years, every single Wednesday night, a Bible study
come
at that
through,
park.
guys, come through if you're in the
And
area.
yeah, I do Wednesday night, the Edge skate park right across from the mall in Naples, Fleshman Park. And what's wild is now, like, thinking through like the local outreach, and the ministry has grown. My position is continuing to change. I'm not involved and obviously when I list all these, it's like I'm not involved in all these, but I kind of float around, and we'll sometimes go to the different parks. But like every Monday night there's a women's ministry called Shred Sisters that meets at the Girls Discipleship House, and there's probably anywhere from 20 to sometimes 30 girls that come to that. And
Come on.
uh, every Monday night we're at Lehigh Skate Park, and then on Tuesday night we go to Ignite, and we also have a men's Bible study upstairs at the House of Right Nature called the Upper Room. On Wednesdays we go to Naples, and we also do mountain bike ministry at Caloosahatchee Regional Park.
So you
Thursday
guys are
night,
busy, bro. Just
bro,
overall.
Thursday night, get this. Thursdays, it's like we're at the rock climbing gym, Fort Rock, and then at Cape Coral Skate Park, at Bonita Skate Park, and in Immokalee at the skate park. And then Fridays we have an indoor skate park and called the Inns in North Fort Myers that's open every Friday. And then every other Saturday, Wakemore Ministry. So it's like, dude, there's so much local outreach happening.
Right.
And really for us, like we said, we've said this and we believe this, that if our heart is to see every person in the action sports community, every individual in Southwest Florida that's a part of the surf, skate, wakeboard, mountain bike community, hear the gospel, respond to the gospel, be given opportunities to be discipled. Like, we need to make sure that we saturate the local community. And for us, like, we would say that the local community extends outside of just downtown Fort Myers where we're at. It goes all the way to Immokalee or to Bonita. Um, and so, yeah, we're constantly balancing this tension of local outreach plus this vision for international ministry. Praise God, man, the Lord has
Yep.
given us and grown the team of Right Nature. We have a big staff with lots of individuals that are part of it. And
If
yeah,
if I could
things happen.
ask you, bro, with all that, because that just like
Yeah.
even listening is like such a breadth of area of like expansive like areas you guys are hitting. I like God bless you guys with that and just give you the grace to, navigate that properly. But like, like with anything that's complex like that, there's challenges. And I'm kind of wondering from your perspective, and that's kind of like a common theme where we talk about on this podcast is like, overcoming hardships and still, despite them, building a fulfilling life.
Mm,
And just from your perspective,
totally.
what have you found to be the biggest challenge leading Ride Nature, and how have you overcome that? And what are some specific lessons you've learned along the way that you'd like to share with your, the people who are listening
No,
to
it's
this?
good. It's good. To be honest, the lesson I'll just one between us and the Lord's provision, and not even my effort or efforts. Like, how hard do we stay on the grind? How hard do we work, what happens, like, like, man, we can be successful in our own strength. We can make things happen. We can make it look like there's fruit on the trees. And but the reality is, it's not, if it's not of the Lord, like, we just get the glory and he doesn't.
Come on.
And so I think the tension is trying to find a space of how do we rest in the Spirit's provision and God's power and not run in front of him. And that's hard, man. It's much easier, for me, I think, it's easier to talk about God than to spend time talking to him.
Preach.
And yeah, just trying to remind myself of that daily and to just be obedient and be faithful. A lot of people ask us, how do you measure success? We'll say, how do you measure success? And we would say, man, really just our faithfulness. Like, can we truly say, like, Lord, like, we have been obedient. We've been faithful to do what you called us to do. And the Lord doesn't need us, man. He doesn't need right nature. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't need us to go out and do things for him. He's using us, no doubt.
He wants
And
us.
we are the vessel. And he wants us, right? Like, but
Yeah.
more than he wants us to just toil, he wants us to be faithful and he wants us to be obedient. And so I think just finding that space and trying to walk in that and measure that, and um, like, the hard part is that there's no doubt a deep ambition in my heart, like, and there's a passion that is burning, and I believe it's pure. Like, I truly do believe that this desire that we would reach as many people as possible with the gospel is obviously, like, I have nothing to gain or profit from that. And so it is a holy ambition. And you see that, like, in the Apostle Paul, right? Like, Paul has this ambition. The dude, I would say, like, in our standards, like, he was on the grind. Like,
Yes.
he was getting after it. And so, like, yeah, just trying to find that space of, like, man, how do I just literally give it all I got? And Paul writes this to the Corinthians, I think in, like, 1 Corinthians 12, he said, I will gladly spend and be spent for your souls. And I'm like, bro, how do I be spent? Like, I'm spent. And versus, like, this, like, oh, I'm just gonna, like, just kind of just chill and be, apathetic about things. And so, yeah, I think just finding that space and has been something the Lord has continued to teach me all the
That's
time.
awesome, bro. Another question I have for you is kind of like personally to you, since you're leading this and spearheading, what do you see as like kind of the future goals of Right Nature? Are there any new
Yes.
initiatives or like things that are on the horizon coming up?
Oh, we have some big prayers, and to be honest, there's such specific needs that, like, when we talk about them and we kind of, like, draw out, like, these are the things that we would need to see in order for these things to happen, we're like, dude, it would take a miracle. So if you're listening to
God
this,
of
you
the
could definitely.
impossible, bro.
Exactly, man. So we need prayers for that. But when we set up the headquarters in Nicaragua, this was not our vision at the time. It was mainly out of necessity. It was, hey, let's set up a permanent base in Central America. And the Lord has been so good, dude.
Come on.
It's been so fruitful. And as the ministry grows, we're looking at the world map, like, literally, and identifying places we've gone to. I mean, we've been in, like, 60 different countries over the last 15 years, all the way from Pakistan to Morocco to India to, dude, even sending teams, small groups into North Korea on 2 different occasions.
Wow.
That, our heart is not just for one specific demographic of the world or one place in the world, but there's areas that we haven't spent as much time because of the proximity of how far away it is, the cost to get there.
Right.
And so we've identified, based off of the success of how well, we've seen the Nicaragua base launch and how successful we've seen the Lord bless this ministry here in Southwest Florida, that we've identified a total of 10 locations globally that we're praying about seeing a permanent Right Nature facility established in the headquarters. And so we actually have a small team that's in Southern California with an office, and they're running local outreach and discipleship program. But yeah, the vision for us would be a headquarters with local outreach, discipleship program, an established business as missions model. So, like, a coffee shop, serve skate shop, like what we have here in Florida, regional outreach into that part of the world to surrounding areas, and then a church planting residency program where we would bring leaders in to teach them what it looks like to plant churches using action sports as a tool to target unreached people groups. And so, yeah, those locations would be one in South America and Brazil, a third location in North America in outside of Vancouver, Canada, Cape Town, South Africa, somewhere in Western Europe, most likely in Portugal, a location in Eastern Europe that would serve the Middle East, the Philippines, which would cover all of Asia, and then a permanent facility in Australia that would kind of be Australia, New Zealand, and parts of Asia Pacific, like Indonesia. And so it's a big, man. We're like, we have essentially right now I would say 2.5, if California people listen to this, no offense to California, they're at the infancy stage. It's just like a baby, of it growing. So there's still some growth that needs to happen there for them to be kind of a fully established headquarters. So, yeah, man, it's a big, and like, honestly, we probably need about 8 full-time staff to really team a full headquarters. So you're
Guys,
talking,
if you're listening and looking for an internship,
it's more people. We need some more people. So yeah, please reach out to us. We need a couple more staff here in Florida. We need staff in California.
So yeah,
there's some big needs, man.
So Mark, quick question. How has like your journey with the organization impacted your own personal life and values? Like, because it sounds like you gained a relationship with God, and then you started this thing, right?
Totally.
And then but I've done ministry also, like started up, like I said, like a prayer and worship thing for 4 years, ran that thing. And like it impacted my life. It helped me like see things I've never saw about God, and just, community, which is, I think in essence, God's all about community. And so what did that look like for you? Like, what have you learned?
That's cool, man. Well, I did before starting the ministry. I had a heart for the Lord. God had changed my life, and really was pursuing my best to walk with the Lord. And obviously the Lord is continuing to refine me and sanctify me and make me more like him. And I pray that I believe he'll keep doing that through the Spirit until I die. I would say my passion for global missions continues to grow. It was already pretty strong before we even started the ministry, but yeah, I think that, a couple things. One, there are millions and millions of people who have never even heard the name Jesus. Yeah. Like, that is crazy to me, like they would have, and I was just in China, and I was just talking to a guy on the street, and I was like, hey, has anyone told you about Jesus? He spoke a little English. He was trying to sell us some stuff. And I was like, has anyone told you about Jesus? He was like, Jesus. He's like, no. I'm like, Jesus? He's like, no. And I'm like, the cross. And dude, clueless. And I'm just like, man, that shouldn't be okay.
Especially from like a Western civilization, like point of view. We're like, oh, everybody knows about Jesus, whether through some cartoon that's like mocking Jesus or something else, right? But it's like nobody's like realizing that.
And the other thing is, man, the Lord has just continued to strengthen my love for his word. And I'm always so shocked of this, man. Just like, I was thinking about this the other day, like the Apostle Paul said, I don't try to preach the gospel with clever speech, lest the cross of Christ be emptied of its power.
Yes.
And I was just thinking about, like, and I think I was listening to a Francis Chan sermon or something, where just the strength of the word of God. Yes. And like, dude, we go on these trips and we will bring Bibles and things that we just take so for granted in the States. And we're like, hey, who wants a Bible? And it's like, dude, we never have enough. Like and with the group of dudes that you even be interested, like we'll be at a seminar, everyone's smoking and drinking, like no one looks like they're Christian and no one looks like they're interested in God. And they're like, hey, we have some Bibles. Anyone want one? And everyone's like, yeah, I'll take a Bible. And before you know, you just give away 100 Bibles. And you're just like, it's crazy to me. And so, yeah, just the power of God's word, a love for the word.
And even perspective, it sounds like your perspective of values just kind of sounds like from the
dude, yeah. I mean, changed. The Lord is continuing. he just continued to change my heart with contentment, and like I still struggle. I mean, you live in Southwest Florida, like you
Yeah.
see nice cars all the time and nice houses,
Yep.
and it's hard to be like live simply, like embrace this mindset of living simply and saying this is enough and I don't need a new car and I don't need new clothes or like, and dude, that's a struggle. Like, um, yeah, like not that I'm materialistic by any means, but like, dude, I like stuff. Like
Yeah.
I'm borderline struggle with being a hoarder because my wife is like, dude, you don't ever want to throw things away, and I'm like, dude, I like having things, and it's hard to try to kill those passions and say like, Lord, like help me be content, and the Lord has to say is strengthen me in that, like just trying not to have as many things that I'm just like, dude, I want this, or I'm obsessed about this or thinking about it all the time.
Did you meet your wife on the mission field, or how'd that happen?
Funny story. So we no, we met before we started Red Nature, and I was praying about going to Korea to teach English as a second language,
Mm,
and to be honest, I was doing it for the money. Um, if anyone's listening, and you're looking for a good job and a fun job. I can't tell you. I never ended up doing it, but it seemed like it was going to be. But South Korea is always looking for Americans to come and teach English to other Koreans in the schools, and you can get paid. It's not a ton of money, but it's like maybe $30,000 or $40,000 a year, depending on the school. But they pay for all of your housing. They give you a stipend for food. Essentially, it's like they cover all of your living expenses, and you get paid 30 or 40,000
what are
bucks a
the
year.
qualifications for that? Do you need like a
But you have to have a
bachelor's
few.
or?
Yeah, just a bachelor's degree in any field. Like if you have a bachelor's degree, you can get hired on fairly quickly. At least you could. This was 15 years ago when I was applying, and so
Right.
I got accepted at this school. It was like 38,000 bucks a year, like 4 weeks vacation a year, and I was in, dude. And it's honestly, it's just conversational English. It's like simple. You sit in a classroom, you teach people, hey, like, hey, my name is, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
there's a curriculum that you follow, but um and so I was going to, this would have been in September. I was going in January. So I had this time between September and January. And my sister told my wife, they were friends at the time going to college together, that my wife was going to graduate in December. And she said, hey, like, what are you doing when you're graduating? She's like, I'm not sure yet. She said, you should talk to my brother. He's going to go to Korea in January. Maybe you could go work at the same school. And so she ended up applying to the same school. We started talking. She got accepted. Long story short, we started dating long distance.
Hey, come on.
And then just decided that it probably wasn't the smartest move to move together as, a young dating couple to Korea. So we ended up staying in the States, dating for, man, we started dating in November and got engaged in July, married in October. So, yeah, 11 months from dating till marriage, and started the ministry of Right Nature late 2009, just a few months after we got married. So,
Dude,
yeah,
that sounds
crazy.
like a crazy love story. Some kind of Hallmark type. Somebody needs to
I know.
create that if they're listening. Give him credit
We
now. Give
joke,
Mark the
we've
credit.
joked about it that someday we're gonna still go to Korea and teach English. We'll just be like 70 years old. We'll do it once
Come
our kids are
on. That's
grown and,
awesome.
and we're retired or something.
Bro,
So,
that's awesome.
yeah.
So to kind of like wrap this up, because I know you have to go and stuff. What advice would you give to someone who is looking to start their own nonprofit organization or get involved in social entrepreneurship? What key factors would you tell them to consider to ensure their efforts are sustainable and impactful?
It's good, man. Yeah, so I think there's two things that come to my mind quickly. One would be, dude, fight for this. Don't recreate the wheel. Like, if you can find somebody who you can find unity with, it's a lot of work to start a nonprofit. And there was a season probably 6 or 7 years into the ministry that we were just like overwhelmed, discouraged. Even now, like we're 15 years in, and every level of growth creates a need for new systems and new processes and new structure. And if you can find someone that's already doing it and you can just link arms with them, like, dude, it's not worth having the bragging rights of saying I'm the founder. Like
Yeah.
it's not worth it. So we hit a threshold where I think we were too far along, like, to just turn back. Like, it was like, we've gone too far, we can't go back. And so that would be one. The second would be, someone shared this with me years ago at the early stages of Right Nature, and it stuck with me. Is just move in one direction. Don't just sit and. I mean, if the don't do it. If the Lord's telling you, if the Lord's saying, "Hey, just be patient, sit, don't go anywhere," then definitely do that. Don't take this advice. But I would say just do something. Like start moving in a direction. If you don't know where to go, start going in one direction, and the Lord will turn you, and He'll either stop you or He'll shift you. And the thing that someone told me at early on with Right Nature, they said that a ship moving is able to turn and go the other direction faster than a ship that's already just sitting still. And that's not a jet ski. It would be like a sailboat, or
Bro,
like.
what you just said right there, it reminds me of a proverb that I heard recently too. It kind of goes along the lines of basically that movement is life. If you think of like a stream or anything, if it's not moving, usually stuff inside there is dead. It looks nasty. It's just like a swampland. It's just no growth, no prospering, no nothing. And if you're moving, you're like you're just getting, even if you get that branch in there, even if you get that like sludge in there, whatever it is, it's going to come through. It's going to be washed away by the blood of Jesus, and you're going to be fine.
Yeah, you got to move, man. So if you're not sure, I mean, and I remember when I heard that, I was like, all right, easy. Like, it's easy for me to just start going in one direction, whether it's the right one or not. And there's definitely been seasons, man, where we're going this way, and God's like, dude, 45-degree turn, boom, turn, and truly, if you imagine a sailboat, like once it's got some momentum, it's starting to move, it can shift, it can kind of change direction. So I would say, yeah, man, just move, don't sit still. There's so many needs in the world. Um, a big advice and a big call to action that I would say is that if you're young and you haven't started a career and you haven't gotten married, man, pray about serving the Lord for a season. It might not be forever, it might not be the rest of your life, but like, yeah, young people have this unique window of time before they jump into a career. And once that happens, once you become a parent, kids, and it's hard. And I look at the Mormon church, and not saying I would align with the beliefs of the Mormon church, but like you see like this idea of, Mormons going on mission, and they all go do this. And I think, man, like I wish that more Christians did that. I wish that more young people said, you know what, I'll go live in, Iraq for a year, or
Yeah.
serve with Right Nature in Florida for a couple years. And dude, it's such an amazing, we've seen probably close to 100 people that have done that. And it's just an amazing time. Like you gain these incredible experiences and stories. And I think you grow as an individual. And I look at my own life and I was like, dude, I wish I would have been able to do that before even going to college. Like I made horrible, dumb mistakes in college. And it's because I was just so young and immature. And I'm like, dude, I think I would have grown a lot had I been able to come to do something like Right Nature
Mark,
and been a part of
how
the
old are
discipleship.
you, by the way? I don't think you mentioned that.
Dude, I turned 40 this year.
No
So it's a big,
way. Hey, bro,
big year.
them genetics look good. I'd say like you're 30, 34-ish max. Like,
Okay. All right.
so
I'll take
bro,
it.
like,
Well, I feel like I'm in my early 30s,
come
to be
on.
honest. Like, a lot of I talk to guys my age all the time, like, I'm too old to skate. I feel too old. And I'm like, dude, you gotta start doing something, because
Yeah. Hey, movement is life, you're gonna
a little bit
be
of life, dude. So I'm
so
I've never entered a race, like a running race in my life, but I signed up for a Spartan race right after my
whoa.
40th birthday. So I've been joking with our staff that I'm trying to get on that Spartan mentality, that mindset of yeah, getting ready. And then I actually go on a big snowboard trip in January, right, with a couple other guys to kind of celebrate the 40th
Come on.
year. So yeah,
Bro.
man, 40.
Well, thank you for coming on. And I just like for kind of the ending of this whole thing, just wanted to say, I love what you touched on the ending, which was about kind of like, it's not important about the title of like founder or whatever, the whole thing. That's something I myself learned, I started a whole bunch of stuff like just, through my undergrad years. I'm a biology major, so like ministry was last thing on my mind, to be honest. But like I realized the importance of community. And as somebody who been through a lot, I lost my father at an early age. I had to kind of, as the oldest, take up that mantle of taking care of my family, all that stuff, helping my family. Um, I realize like there's a lot of times you're going to have to put into work. The work might not be noticed, but God like sees it and he marks it up in the heavenly book. And, not that we want to do things just because it's marked up. It should be like a heart posture,
Poetry.
right? But like ultimately it's like, hey, it's okay, bro. People don't notice the little things, whether you're folding chairs, like people say, in churches or whatever, just cleaning the toilets in the ministry or whatever. Like God sees your heart. That's, I think the most important thing is like, we get to a place where we're like, hey, God, you freely gave this to me. I freely give it away. And
Amen.
obviously there's like a more complex thing in this where you're not just going to give it away to anybody. Stewardship is very important with who you delegate stuff to and all that kind of stuff. That's part of leadership and like realizing who you can entrust certain things to. But I just love that you have that heart posture where you're like, hey, God put me in, entrusted me with this, but I'm freely able to like pass it on when the torch comes, the next torch bearer. So, bro,
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
love what you guys are doing. Again, guys, if you are looking for an internship, as you heard, they got a whole bunch of stuff happening around the world. So
Yeah.
not even, Florida, but, Cali and all the other places. So, Mark, thank you again for coming on, bro. It's been a blessing. I think this will be a blessing to a lot of people out there. And yeah, bro, looking forward to drinking some coffee with you again at Right Nature or, you know, oh, by the way, so we were talking about Chris Lorenz, and
Yeah.
he's gonna be coming on tomorrow, bro. It's so weird. Like I was scheduling
Oh,
podcasts,
cool.
and he's coming on tomorrow, so it's gonna be like a action sport type of podcast next to back
Dude,
to
that's
back.
awesome.
So I don't know. The Lord's doing something, but again, thank you for your
I love it,
time,
dude.
bro. God bless, and till next time, guys. Peace.
Thank you, Mark.